I'm Jasmine Moradi, and you're listening to the Queens of Tech podcast, a podcast series about raising the voice of workplace champions. 60 plus questions in around 30 to 40 minutes with women, women of color, non-binary, and transgender influencers about their journey into STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. I started the Queens of Tech podcast initiative in May 2022 because I would like to retain more women, women of color, non-binary, and transgenders in the tech industry. Talent is out there, but our work environment needs to improve for all to feel safer, stay authentic, and to be valued for our contributions. My vision is to raise the workplace ecosystem for all in tech by killing the imposter syndrome, stopping bad behavior, and increasing equity opportunities. Each podcast talk is built around 60 plus questions regarding upbringing, education, career path, DIB, and future advice. My mission is to bridge the gap between schools and workplaces by getting into the heart of my guest's personal life and career journey to inspire other girls, women of color, non-binary, and transgenders to unleash their full potential to reach top leadership roles in the tech industry. My goal is to raise the voices of tech champions around the world and together with companies, investors, and politicians, raise the challenges and opportunities around equity, inclusive, diversity, and belonging in our workplaces. Enough is enough. I would like to enforce companies to build a sustainable, inclusive culture to retain diverse talent so we keep the workforce power equity to continue building future diverse and inclusive products. Representation matters. Your voice matters. In this episode, I'm very excited to welcome my guest, Tech Queen Maeva Cecchi, UX lead and digital accessibility referent at Amadeus. Bonjour Maeva, ça va?
Bonjour Jasmine, ça va bien, merci.
I'm very happy to have joining us all the way from France and south of France. How are you today?
I'm very good, pretty excited actually to do this exercise and to share it.
Me too. I'm ready to get to know you. So let us dive into your journey into STEM. Hope you're ready for the Queens of Tech 60 plus questions.
I am.
Let's warm up with a few fun facts about you. How would you describe your personality in 3 hashtags?
Hashtag clumsy, hashtag fun, and hashtag curious.
How would you summarize your life in 3 sentences?
I am Corsican, living in Nice, in France, as you mentioned. I am a sport and a food addict. And I have a wonderful wife, an incredible boy, and long story short, I love my life.
What kind of music stimulates and motivates you the most?
I have no habits at all in my life. So music depends on the mood and I really cannot choose a style.
What is your personal motto?
Let's do it. So only those who do nothing makes no mistakes.
What is your favorite book?
This one is maybe a bit cliché, but I cannot think about another one than Le Petit Prince because it reminds me everything about how life is beautiful when there is kindness in the world.
What is your favorite podcast?
Not related at all about tech. It's called Dans la tête d'un coureur, a runner head. I love to learn about sport, as I mentioned, and what is inside the motivation of a runner.
Mac or PC?
Mac.
Say something interesting about you that most people don't know.
I seem to be a social lady, but at the end, I'm super shy. And it's taking me a lot of energy actually to bond with people. So when I was a kid, I used to climb in trees actually to read all day long in order to avoid my friend that I loved. And I still need to find a tree, even if I'm a grown up now.
What is your hidden talent?
I'm a disaster and I'm very clumsy. This is a known talent. But on top of that, I have a talented wife for cooking. So most people don't know that I am actually a good cook as well. And this is only when I'm not dreaming at the same time and forgot water in my pasta.
And if you were going to write a book about your life, what would the title be?
Continuity of the previous question, my friend asked me actually to draw a book with all my clumsy and head in the cloud moments. And they already get the title, which is my attitude. So my name plus the behavior.
So much fun. Great start, Maeva. Now, let us dig deeper. Our childhood has a profound effect on our adulthood. Our early experiences shape our belief about ourselves, others, and the world. Now, I want to discover your childhood. Where did you grow up and how did it shape your early experiences?
I grew up in Corsica, where the family and all the cultural identity is very important. My dad is a technical drawer, and he always told me that I could do the job that I wanted. And he advised me anyway to do some creatives one. As a teenager, I refused to follow the advice because, well, teenager. But at the end, as you know, I'm now a designer. So that's fun.
But what was your dream job when you were a child then?
Nothing related to that. I wanted to be an underwater biologist. Then I thought that I was terrible in sciences and math. And I know now that it's not true.
What was your favorite subject in school?
I loved art and French literature.
What was your least favorite subject?
Math. I was so anxious when it was about math.
What is your earliest memory of technology and the arrival of the internet?
So that's a fun story. The second year of mid school, around my 13, we had a class called technology. And the teacher truly and genuinely believed that everybody was used to computers. So he started the course with Excel formula. And that was the evaluation. But on my side, I never used a computer. So I didn't know how to start the machine. And I was super stressed about doing some mistakes. So as you can guess, I had a terrible evaluation for the first time of my life. I was an excellent student, but it was a very low grade, my first one. And I was terrible. And my parents, instead of not being happy, saved economies on that and bought my sister and I a computer after this day. And I think that was the best investment they did.
And which were the 3 first technology gadgets you owned and how did it influence your interest in tech going forward?
My first technology material that I had was this family computer, as I just mentioned, and I spent ages on it. I started to play with Photoshop to imagine my next haircut, to trick my little sister on the backgrounds. I don't know if you had this joke already. I wanted to create also some Corsican website and to connect with my primary school friends using the notepad to do some HTML. Actually, that was way before Facebook. And maybe it shows also that having the idea is a bit different than creating the business to scale up.
And during that period of time, who was your female role model growing up and what about her inspired you?
I had a lot of thought on that. And actually, my grandma Sylvette is still actually the female role model on many aspects because she took care of 6 grandchildren with a sweet, fair hand, but with a lot of hurt. And when you are a grandma and having us every day after school and every day during holidays, she was not only here to give us some candies, she teaches us how to do things and to work hard for it. For example, my cousin was and still is dyslexic, and every day she helped him with the homework and to do more. And she also teaches some solidarity. For example, until our cousin finished his French lesson, we had to play doing French lesson with him as well to not leave him alone. So now he's close to be a PhD, and our grandma read and corrected both our master thesis on my side and his PhD thesis. So she followed us from beginning to now.
Very impressive. Such a role model. Amazing woman. Thank you for sharing that. And how do you think where you grew up and the school you went to and the generation you come from influence your education and career choice?
My family teach me the value that I wanted to follow in my life, and school helped me actually to refine it a bit and make them my own. So that's part of the evolution. So I wouldn't say that my background influenced my career choice specifically, but at least I think it drives me to have a professional life that fit my fundamental values.
So let us dig into your career. But before that, Maeva, I'm going to read 2 quotes. First one, how does the universe expect me to choose a career path at 60? I can't even choose what I want for dinner. Second, Abraham Lincoln said, I quote, the best way to predict your future is to create it. So I want to know the choices behind your career path then. So where and what did you end up studying at university?
I ended up doing a bachelor degree in art and communication 16 years ago. And 2 years ago, actually, I got a master's degree in cognitive ergonomic and psychology in parallel of my work.
When what influenced you to get into your choice of field?
So about my ergonomic and psychology field, I've been influenced by many factors, such as my UX researcher Amadeus colleagues, of course, because it was 2 years ago. But actually, I also been influenced when I participated in 2017 to a local hackathon from the local association What06 that I think you know. And at the time, I wasn't a member of this association. I participated to create an emotional translator for disabled people. And actually, everything starts from that on my side regarding this field, because all the value that I mentioned before, I needed to really understand how to translate the flow between the sensitive captor and the exit function, translating properly without breaking the attention, etc. Because, if you have some hearing the emotion of the people in front of you in terms of attention, what does it mean? And that led me to understand that I was missing a huge part of my work as a designer. And I needed to better understand the human behavior to provide better solutions. So that's why I ended up like that. And actually, to complete the loop and to give back the gift that I received from this hackathon, I'm now a very proud member of the collective of What06.
Amazing. What a story. And what professional roles have you had before that led you to the current one?
I had some student work, and I used to be a graphic and a web designer as freelance before joining my current company as UX and UI designer.
So, for our listeners, what does Amadeus do?
Amadeus, you might don't know it, but you might using it. It's a worldwide company powering high-tech technologies to the global travel and tourism industry, from airlines to hotels or travel agencies, meaning that if you are buying a flight ticket, probably it's our technological system. And my mission in this company is to ensure that we take data-driven decision when we design the solution in order to provide the right experience at destination at the right moment.
What is your title and what is your main responsibilities?
I'm UX lead of the business unit called Amadeus Discover, where we provide activities and experiences at destination. And on top, I have a few other hats, such as a customer success manager. I'm also co-leading the UX community of the company, and I am a diversity and inclusion ambassador.
And how did you get the role?
I had my first job at Amadeus because of a bet. I had a big imposter syndrome, which is pretty inconvenient when you are a freelancer. And actually, somebody asked me to sabotage myself. So that was my perception, of course, to sabotage myself. So to sabotage my next prospect and be 100% myself, even if in my head, lose it. Being myself will make you lose the prospect, because I felt I was a failure. And it appeared that my next phone call was for a job in Amadeus. So I played the game and I be myself. So I got the job, and it was 9 years ago.
And what does a typical workday or work week look like for you?
Since I am a UX lead, I have to admit that I have much more meetings than before. But as we are a small unit in a business incubator, no weeks look the same. This week, for example, I worked on the UX strategy and roadmap for the next quarter by identifying the needs and priorities with the product team. I also started to prepare a customer meeting by gathering the insight we had to propose a data-driven solution and some improvements. And finally, I really want to stay close to the design field, and I took some small user stories and I did some design review to ensure that I'm still close to that.
Maeva, I love the quote, choose a job you love and you will never have to work a day in your life. So what do you love the most about your role?
What I love in my current role is the slashing part. I love being involved in the product development and strategy / people management / design / customer success / UX community. I know it seems a bit like being everywhere, but I really love seeing all the connections between all of those. And I really try to inject what I learned from one field to another. So I'm never bored.
And what is the best experience you've had in your current role so far? Any examples?
I love the haha moment when you are designing for a complex need and you finally succeed to make it simple. I also love answering to people's needs in my team. But at the end, I discovered quite soon, actually, what I liked even more was helping people to grow and to work in their own job. So my best experience so far is seeing one of my colleagues being able to stand up a few days ago on a topic, while 2 years ago, she wouldn't dare to do it. And even if she was already the expert on that matter, thanks to the work we've done together, she was able to stand up and to fight a bit. And I'm quite proud of that.
You should be very inspiring. And what is the biggest challenge you've encountered so far and how did you end up tackling it?
I mentioned that my biggest challenge so far is my imposter syndrome, preventing me to ask when I needed or wanting something. So I'm still working on it. But now I really try to speak to myself as I would speak to a team member or a friend. So therefore, I'm trying to be more data-driven with myself. So you have choose that. you achieved this. So what do you think you need to achieve this milestone concretely? And especially I'm more kind with myself and I try to not speak to me like I would not take to someone else.
And what do you wish everybody understood about your role?
UX is not about creating gradient colors for buttons. It's not just being pretty. It requires a solid human-computer interaction background, being data-driven, and yes, being creative to find solutions out of the box, still considering technical constraints.
And what is the one common myth about your profession or field that you want to disapprove?
UX design is not being artist. Artists express their own messages and their own needs. UX designers must be the opposite, in my opinion. Our personal opinion doesn't matter. We must be data-driven and we need to understand our user behaviors.
So based on everything you said, what do you love about working in the tech industry?
I'm never bored. So it's moving so fast that we always learn something.
Oprah Winfrey said, I quote, "Think like a queen. A queen is not afraid to fail. Failure is not a stepping stone to greatness." So Maeva, what has by far been your biggest achievement in your career?
I hope my biggest achievement is in the future and not in the past. That being said, being able to pair work as a UX with a data scientist and to go beyond interfaces is to me one of my biggest achievements for several reasons. One, because it shows the maturity of the group and how I help to make the group grow on that matter. So we are not doing buttons. The second part is on a personal matter because it required me to understand some technical concept that I thought I would never be able to do it.
And what is the biggest factors help you become successful? What are your success habits?
May I say my wife is my biggest factor because she's actually always supporting me on so many ways. She's actually always pushing me when I have a new passion to learn, spending time on that instead of our family. She's always pushing me to do it, even if when I'm doubt, and she's always an active listener. So I'm lucky to have somebody actually who trusts me in that much. Regarding the habit itself, except sharing a cup of tea with her and to complain on that, I don't have a success habit. I just cannot have habits. I'm doing things based on what I feel, my emotions, and then it's also why I'm not super organized.
And how do you measure your own performance at work, knowing you're successful or not?
I try to be clear about my objective and what is expected from me. So therefore, I know in advance the success metric I need to achieve.
With success, as we know, comes failures. What would you say is your biggest failure or step back in your career, and what did you learn from it?
My biggest failure was when I was a freelancer. I took a project that I didn't sense well because I didn't have the instinct, but I was a freelancer and I needed to get cash. So I felt from the beginning it was a bad plan and I denied this instinct. And long story short, it took me more time than I quoted. I spent a lot of energy on something that didn't bring me any value, even in terms of learning. And I lose money because I wasn't able to focus on valuable customers. So learning, trust your instincts, plus the most valuable asset is not money, but it's your time.
What would you say is inspiring and motivate you the most in your role in career right now?
I feel I'm a baby leader and I really want to grow by making others grow and building a meaningful product. And I feel it in that order. Making grow humans helps building awesome solutions and not the opposite.
Well, I can already feel that you have both the passion and the skills, and I can see you getting there. So let us now jump into the influence of mentor, role models, champions, and sponsors, because you seem to be a person that wants to mentor other people. For our listeners, role models can consciously or subconsciously be a powerful force in our lives. In addition, champions can stand up and advocate for us and open up the world of possibilities. Sponsors match emerging talent with leaders and influential employees who can help us move ahead in our careers. Maeva, do you have yourself a mentor, champion, or a sponsor today?
Actually, I'm super lucky because I cannot mention all of them. But first, part of the What06 collective, I have very much inspiring women around me to learn with me how to make diversity and inclusion better. And they have an incredible do-it mindset. Also, I have a great mentor who helped me to grow as a leader. She's the one who put me in front of all the relevant questions I really don't want to ask myself. So she's teaching me kindness and manager courage goes hand by hand. And last but not least, I also have an incredible manager. She's one of the most inspiring person I met in my working career. I have this feeling that We are safe, and she also supports me to be the person that I never suspect I will be able to do. So she has the right balance between assigning me high challenges and having the great human factor.
Amazing, because history shows that it has been more common for men having mentor, champion, sponsor in business than women. And you have a huge network and
Yes.
you're mentoring yourself, and that's what you want to do more. So how important do you think is to have a mentor, champion, and sponsor through one's career?
Obviously, you can guess it's extremely important to have role models and mentors to talk to. It's having a safe space that will help you to grow faster. And with What 06, the association, we are currently developing an application for young ladies to match with women in tech. So it will be released very soon. And this is how we believe it's important.
Amazing. I can't wait for that one. I will be using it myself.
Yes, and if you want, you can also be one of the people who will mentor people.
I will definitely do that. Let's move on to leadership. Adena Friedman, President and CEO of Nasdaq, said, I quote, empowering those around you to be heard and valued makes the difference between a leader who simply instructs and one who inspires. And Shirley Sandberg, ex-COO of Facebook, said, I quote, leadership is about making others better as a result of your presence and making sure that the impact lasts in your absence. So Maeva, what does leadership mean to you?
To me, leadership means guide your team at its best in order to achieve a goal that makes sense for everybody.
What do you distinguish a good versus a bad leader?
Good leader, in my opinion, values the team first, and he's a servant leader, even if it can be uncomfortable sometimes. And the bad leader is someone who thinks about him or herself first and cannot guide safely the group.
Who is your favorite female, non-binary, or transgender tech leader, and why?
I honestly don't have a female leader, but I have in my reading list the book of Rana El Kalyoubi, who is a pioneer in emotion and AI. And if we look back to my project for emotion translator for disabled people.
Well, I invited her to the podcast. Hopefully one day she will be able to say yes. How would you describe yourself as a leader?
Maybe I'm not the one who can answer that question, so I will tell you what I'm hoping. I hope I'm seen as a collaborative leader who respects everyone's opinion and still can be able to take a decision.
And as a leader, what values do you prioritize the most?
Working together, safety workplace, clarity.
And what leadership lessons have you learned that have shaped you into the leader you are today?
My leadership lesson is having the right balance. So you can be collaborative and be brave to take the decision when needed. You can ask the best from your team and give all the tools and direction to do so. So I'm far from perfect and I have many things to learn, but I really try to lead by example.
What are your 3 strengths and 3 weaknesses?
My strengths are my resilience, my willingness to learn, and my empathy. My weaknesses are my low confidence and my regular anxiety to not do well. My imposter syndrome exhausted me, and I don't know when I need to stop to recharge my batteries.
Let us now jump into the hottest topic in business today, workplace culture, unlocking the power, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Maeva, what do diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging mean to you personally?
It means that whoever you are, you deserve the same respect, attention, and voice than anyone else.
What do you consider being 3 to 5 signs of good company culture if you were to join a company tomorrow?
I consider it's important to have female and multicultural leaders having spontaneous feedback from employees about day-to-day examples of the culture. And I also check the company real actions done in the local environment more than the communication.
And as a woman, what has been the most significant political and cultural barrier in your career, and how have you overcome these challenges?
My biggest challenge was myself and my imposter syndrome.
And how do you discuss DIB challenges such as salary gaps, promotion, or maternity leave with your colleagues, peers, and community?
As a D&I ambassador, I really try to give example and to discuss freely about salary gaps, promotion, and maternity leaves, because I believe that the more everyone is transparent, the easiest it will be for everybody to reduce those gaps. It helps to understand why, and if there is some discrepancy, to solve them.
There are many public and internal discussions about the barriers women of color, non-binary, and transgender individuals face from reaching high position or receiving funding in the tech industry. How have these issues affected you, and what is your advice on overcoming these roadblocks?
I think as women, we are told to wait, we deserve something. And as I mentioned before, the biggest barriers that I faced was me, because even if I knew from my parents that I was able to do everything I could, so that's incredible. My parents, my dad told me you can do everything you want. And still, I was the barrier. I thought that I needed to wait my boss to propose me the lead on the scope or to get a promotion because I thought I would look pretentious to position myself. And it's not true. My wife, again, is telling me many times that she cannot guess what I need if I am not telling it. So it's applicable for work. You want to lead the stream, you prepare yourself and you ask for it. Don't wait others to guess your professional evolution.
And today, tech companies invest heavily in marketing, attracting women of color, non-binary, and transgender individuals. However, they're struggling to retain them. Articles show that women are leaving the tech industry. What is your best advice or strategies for how companies can work to build a stronger corporate culture that engages DIB?
We are living in a world where marketing is overpresent. We have marketing everywhere. And to me, companies must focus more on the plausible actions than marketing. It's great to communicate about what you are doing if you are doing something applicable behind. So in terms of strategy, I believe happy and diverse employees are the best ambassadors. And to do so, I also believe that awareness and transparencies are key on diversity and inclusion, explaining that is not a marketing trend, but a real rule. And I insist on the rule, and the company shouldn't tolerate any disrespectful language. The company must show, by example, again, that they apply their own value and it's not just a buzzword.
What would you say are the key challenges of implementing a DEIB culture in a workplace and in the tech industry today?
Key challenges for me are ensuring everyone acknowledge and apply those values, even if I'm sure the head of diversity and HR believe on those values. When you are a big company, such as Amadeus or any other one, it's very complicated to know what is going on every small thing around the world. We have, I think, 13K around the world. How can we know what's happening everywhere? And it is also why I guess we have ambassador roles to be closer to the field and to spread the message and to apply concrete actions and to revert also when something is being wrong.
And why do you think it's important for more women of color, non-binary, and transgender to join the tech industry today?
Let me reverse the question. Why should the tech industry restrict itself to half of the population? The more brain we are, the better. It opens more diverse ideas.
And how do you think companies would benefit from having not just women of color, non-binary, and transgender leaders, but actually higher gender representation at C-suite level and boardrooms with a voice?
Higher gender representation led to a diverse background, different way of thinking, different sensibility, and therefore it's open to more diverse ideas. So whatever it's female, non-binary, it's another way to think. That's the way we know, and it will open to a larger spectrum.
Great advice. But why do you think is the main reason we still see few women of color, non-binary, and transgender leaders in the tech leadership roles and as startup founders still today?
I believe because from the beginning of our studies, and even primary school girls are not told that they can be tech leaders, even if in the games, if you are looking at science, for example, during the games of children, they are nurses, while boys are doctors still now. And growing up, how many knows tech female? Look at me, you asked me the question and honestly, I couldn't answer. So even if I am interested on that matter, I struggle to have in mind a female tech leader.
Maya, but there's another challenge also. The data reveals a concerning trend of low funding rates for startups led by women, with only 1 to 2% of the funding directed towards women in the tech industry. Said Black and Latino women in particular receive less than 1%. You haven't directly yourself gone through a funding process, but I'm sure you know a lot. And what factors do you believe contribute to this imbalance, and what strategies can be activated to increase funding for women-led startups?
That's a very difficult question. I think people tend to sponsor people they feel the closest, and therefore maybe it's complicated to feel close to a Black or white or Latino lady when you are a white male. And in that case, the question will be, how can we avoid that these variables are not taken into account? Meaning then, why should we consider that a white male is not closer to a lady? I do not understand why we are not the closest based on the color, skin, or gender. So I really don't have the answer on that, honestly.
And how much do you think the tech industry has changed regarding DIB since you joined?
I think it started to evolve quite positively. And I would like to give credit actually to the youngest generation. This young generation is quite incredible. Everybody is taking that they are lazy, they don't want to work, but maybe we should awake a bit and look at them. They are super open to diversity and inclusion. It's not even a matter on their side. And they want to have a good work-life balance and they just want to live. So I think they are the good example to follow on that matter.
And looking back on your own career, what one thing would you have changed in your working environment to break the bias?
I would not try to fit to what others expected to me to be, especially as being gay, for example, trying to reduce the languages that I could have, like during coffee exchanges or with customers when I was freelancer and all of that. I usually kindly smile, just move forward. And I think now, looking back on that, I think I would have maybe fight a bit more on that and find projects that will matter more.
And looking forward, what actions will you take as a leader to reduce bias and improve DIB for the next generation in tech?
This is something I tried to do a few months ago. Actually, I tried to have a matrix when I was hiring someone with soft skills and with hard skills, of course, and not looking at my personal feeling first. And based on what I mentioned, you feel closest to people than you are looking like. And even if I strongly agree that it's completely wrong to feel that way, sometimes I felt closer to somebody, to a woman actually, than maybe a male. And at the end, I wanted to get my matrix and to be driven by data. I still hired a girl, but because she deserved it.
Let us now move on to another hot topic in business today, which is work-life balance and mental health. Maeva, you undoubtedly have a busy lifestyle. How do you take care of yourself to maintain good mental health?
I do a lot of sports, but I'm not trying to get objective in my sports. I'm doing sport because I want to do so and because I want to keep a good mental health and not because I want to be the best and to perform.
Have you ever experienced burnout?
I was that close actually to experience burnout a few years ago. I felt terrible. I was in a great team, but one person was the trigger for me to burn. And my manager at the time, another great one, was able actually to pick me at the right moment and to say, here, you are about to collapse. So I don't care, but I'm ready to take the fire back. I'm taking you out and I want you now to rest, to go on another project in which you will be better. And yes, she prevented me to have this burnout. And we actually discussed about that a few days ago, preparing actually your podcast. And she gave me an advice, now manager to manager, saying, I was indeed able to help you on that burnout, but this is also because you were able to do the first step and to say that something went wrong. And as a young manager, this is also something that I want to keep in mind. Like, I know that I can help people and I want to prevent that, but also if someone is helping me to see it.
That is great advice to share and great management skills, because most of the time they ask the person to just take time off and then come back, or they try to push them a little bit more instead of trying to understand, like here at you explaining, what is the reason behind the burnout.
Exactly.
How do you solve that? It could, as you say, it could be one person. It could be a situation that easily can be removed.
Yes.
Thank you very much. A lot to learn from that.
And thanks to Valérie at the time.
And what is your advice on how companies can create a more mentally healthy workplace in the new now?
My first advice would be to have healthy and safe workplace. And to me, it starts with the trust to your direct manager. If you are not able to discuss properly with this manager, it will be complicated.
And what motivates you every day to get out of bed?
I want to learn and I want to crack things. We have solutions to find and I love to try to find solutions.
Now, Maeva, let us wrap up with a few words of wisdom and a piece of advice for our listeners. What would you say is the best piece of advice you've ever been given that has helped you during setbacks in your role and career?
I think the one that I mentioned before, to talk to myself as I will talk to someone from my team, helped me a bit to like me a bit better.
And then what is the worst advice you ever received in your career and how did you handle it?
Ignore your feeling because you need to do money. That's the worst advice that I received.
And is there something you wish you would have known or a skill you wish you had when starting out in the tech industry? You've been telling us you have lots of skills, so I'm curious.
I wish I knew that I was emotionally able to be a manager.
And if you had the ability to go back in time to when you were just the beginning of your career, what advice would you give to your younger self?
You can do it. Trust yourself.
And what advice will you give to young girls, women of color, non-binary, and transgenders who are trying to break into STEM fields today, especially wanting to become next generation leaders and founders?
I will say be kind with you and with others. Because sometimes when there is some competition, we tend to not support and to not have this, I'm not sure I have it in English, this sorority. We have the brotherhood and
Sisterhood?
Yes, thanks a lot. Take care of the sisterhood.
Last but not least, Maya, what is next for you in your role and career in tech? What are your career aspirations?
I feel I'm still so new in the leadership role that I have many, many things again to explore on that matter. And even if I love the world of user experience, I'm closer and closer to product. And I'm wondering if at a point I wouldn't jump a bit on the product to make this relevant product and having this data-driven decision and, having product with good UX and having all of that closer.
Well, I'm excited to follow your journey. No matter what you do, you're really going to succeed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maya, so much for being a guest on the Queens of Tech podcast. Sharing your journey will without a doubt inspire change and reshape company culture for the next generation of women of color, non-binary and transgender leaders and founders in tech.
Thanks a lot, Jasmine.
Thank you for listening. For more podcast episodes and to learn more about the Queens of Tech initiative and to support us, visit queensof.tech.